I don't know why the camera it auto unmutes every time except for when we're in the same room. I don't know. We try to be professionals. We're not. Fortunately, no one's watching yet. Yeah. So no one saw that awkward moment where we were trying to talk.
Oh, they saw it. They just didn't hear it.
But we're here. We're actually in the same place tonight. Got a new little setup going, which is fun. And that is because we have some incredibly special guests with us tonight. You have kind of an interesting story with part of this, right? You want to set up. So we released a video back in early summer is probably when it came out, because it was in May. But you went out, and what happened?
My boy and I, we went out to Blue Mesa opening day. There was a whole goal, be there opening day. While we were headed down the boat ramp, a very beautiful boat was on its way up the boat ramp, and everybody on it was giddy, and I didn't know why. The boat inspector told me that that boat had caught potentially a state record, world record size lake trout.
Right.
And so I looked on the side of that big, beautiful boat, and it said GSO Fishing.
Right. So we are joined today by a couple of people. They are GSO Fishing. They are out of Gunnison, Colorado. And I hope I don't screw any of this up. If I do, they'll correct me when they get on here. They've been doing this for almost 20 years. They do a guide service out of Gunnison, primarily on Blue Mesa Reservoir. They also have jigs that they sell, and jig heads, and a bunch of other stuff that you can get through their site, specifically kind of targeting the fish that are in Blue Mesa Reservoir. One of those was the jig that was used to catch the world record lake trout out of Blue Mesa earlier this year. We probably have to put an asterisk next to world record because there's some debate on that. But Stormy and Andy of GSO Fishing are just incredible people. We have talked about their podcast that they are doing now. They have more time on the water probably than we could imagine together. So I'm excited to kind of pick their brain and get some information from them tonight. Hopefully we get some people to tune in and ask some questions, but if not, it should still be a great episode for people to see. So we're going to bring them on right now.
If nobody else wants to ask questions, I'm going to ask questions.
And there they are. Welcome.
Good evening, fellas.
Yes. How are you guys?
We are great. Thank you for having us.
No, we're super excited for you guys to be here, and just hopefully, I mean, realistically, in any of these kind of scenarios, if I get one thing that I can take away that makes me 1% better, I feel like it was 100% worth it. And so
yes,
I'm also really excited that this will be recorded and I can rewatch it multiple times so that it happens every time I watch it.
That, and I can continue to learn because I'm thick. I can sink in well.
All right, so we wanted to, real quick, the intro story where everybody was so giddy on our boat. We were out there opening day as well, but we did not catch that fish. It was actually an angler in Gunnison named Scott Inlow who caught that particular fish. But we're always giddy on our boat because we love fishing, and we had our whole family and our girls with us on opening day, and we caught some really good lake trout that day too, but nobody catches 70-pound lake trout. So but Scott did send me that picture while we were on the water. We were probably 300 yards away from him when he caught it. And he's like, you won't believe it. This thing is huge. He's like, we don't even know what it is. And if you've watched their video when they land, that it's worth looking up Scott Inlow's world record, because it's unofficial, because he waited on his boat and there's weird rules about that. And he did throw it back. But it was caught, like you said, on one of our jigs, and those guys have been huge supporters of our fishing lineup and our guide service and stuff for years. And so, yeah, everybody at the lake was super stoked about that. So that's kind of what happened.
It was a good day.
Yeah.
I don't remember where I ended up being, but we were trying to set it up where I could go on that trip, and it didn't happen. And I get a text from him as he's getting to the water that's like, hey, somebody just caught, or the guy at the boat just said someone just caught a 70-pound fish. And so I quickly was looking up the Colorado state record and saw, it's 50 pounds at the time or whatever. And so I'm like, I remember texting back. I'm like, dude, that guy just lied to you. There's no way. And then shortly after, all the pictures started showing up on social media and everything that no, someone legit caught a 70-pound fish, which was insane.
Yeah, we've thought for years that record's held up for a really long time, and our fishery has finally kind of gotten worked back into shape where we expected someone to probably catch a mid 50, upper 50-pound fish, maybe 60. And I'm sure there's been a couple of guys that have.
Right.
But then when that number came across as 73, it was like, oh my gosh, nobody thought that was coming.
Yeah.
Super cool.
It's crazy. So, well, awesome. Thank you. Please feel free to correct us throughout the night because we will probably screw up some more stuff. But let's get a little backstory on you guys and GSO. You have been in the Gunnison Valley for years now. How did you end up there? What's kind of the backstory? How did you guys get started?
So I went to college at Western State here in Gunnison. So I've been here since 99. That's what brought me here. And then through college, I started working at Gene Taylor Sporting Goods here in Gunnison. And so I've been working there since 2001 and never left. And then I knew Stormy growing up from back home, and we hit it off and got married and moved her up here. And then from there, we started, for years, it kind of was related to lake trout, but people were always wanting to get a guide service on Blue Mesa because of our, trophy lake trout stuff. And so there literally wasn't a guide service available. So I was like, I could do that. Somebody's got to do it, so.
Yeah,
Right.
Might as well be me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm up here and I'm fishing anyway. So that's kind of how that started. And of course, sorry, we've learned a lot, obviously, since then. But yeah, I started the guide service in 2006.
Okay.
And then, throughout the years, just learning the fishery, learning the craft, started our own lure making business. And so we're about 4.5 years into that now. Mm-hmm. It started about 10 years ago, just making our own stuff just to be more efficient on the water. And then that, it really caught on with everybody around us and it kind of blew up.
So we have 4 daughters, and so he doesn't get to talk much in our house. So every time he talks excessively, he loses his voice. So bear with us. Our 4 daughters talk a lot. So
screen time and talking, you'll get about 30 minutes out of me and I'm done. So.
Perfect. That's awesome. Yeah, I have 2 daughters, so I'm not quite as outnumbered, but I feel that at some level for sure. So
there's a lot of girls in this house.
It's all good. It is all good.
Where was back home? Did you grow up in Colorado, or where is that?
Mm-hmm.
Where's back home?
So we're both from the San Luis Valley, so like Monte Vista, Alamosa.
Okay.
So you're used to the cold then.
Yeah, it's the only difference between Gunnison and there is the wind. And it does warm up a little better down there in the day, but yeah, 20 below winters are what we're used to. So
That's crazy,
man.
I'm not saying it's fun, but we're used to it.
It's not fun, but
yeah, right. Yeah. So I don't know if he said before we started. So my dad has managed the dam at Taylor Reservoir for probably 16, 17 years now. So he's lived up there at the base of Taylor. And I don't know how he does it. I couldn't go outside. Like, I don't know how you guys do it sometimes.
Yeah, we're 20 below and he's 40 below. Yeah,
Right.
like that's got to be the coldest place on the planet, pretty much.
Yeah. There's a sheet in the bunkhouse on the fridge that's like state record coldest temperatures from like the 40s. And I bet half of those dates are from Almont. Like, it's just insane.
Awesome.
No.
Yep. So, all right. So let's jump in with this. You talked about, you started in 2006 kind of saying, hey, there's no guide service here. I can do that. Let's start a guided thing. The reality is when we started 8 Times Up, that was one of the first things we had on our list. And then we started looking into kind of the rules and regs, and in Colorado, it's kind of a crazy thing to get started. So it's not easy. But with that, you guys are in a unique position to offer something that not a lot of people can, which is a guided trip on now a body of water that has a world record caliber fish in it. So to you guys, what would you say for someone, because even for us, like we've been fishing together for 15 years, we have never taken a guided trip. So what would be your like sell to someone who has never taken a guided fishing trip on why you should?
I personally don't think that we would sell it. We've been so blessed to meet people from all walks of life, and their reason behind it is always different. So it could be that they're celebrating a birthday or an anniversary, or I took a guy from Europe who had never been on a lake covered in ice before. And he just wanted to walk out on the ice, but he was nervous about doing it himself. So,
Can't say that I blame him.
yeah, right. I mean, the backstories are endless, and we're so blessed, like kids wanting to go fishing on their birthdays. And so they request to book a trip. Though, those things, like that is the best part of it, is like, there's no one reason to take a guided trip. They could be family vacations. The thousands of reasons I can't even begin to come up with, but the whole purpose is it's like, it's a celebration of some sort. Or we take so many learning trips. People who are like, I've been out on Blue Mesa and I just can't figure it out. Can you help us? And it's a huge lake. And so you can see how it would be really, really intimidating on where do I even begin? There's 3 different basins. There's so much going on in each one. And so I think the thing is like, if you want to come celebrate, if you want to come out on the lake and just see the scenery, relax, enjoy, spend time with your family, take the kids or grandkids fishing. There's just so many reasons to come fishing. But another big one is just to get that foundation of where do I even start to go fishing on Blue Mesa?
Yeah, like Stormy said, there's, over the last almost 20 years, we've seen so many reasons why people have come fishing, and it's all over the place. But, if you're thinking about why would I book a guided fishing trip with someone? And so that would be, maybe I'm going to, in a former life, I used to bass fish a lot and tournament bass fish a lot. And so I have a pretty good idea usually when I go to a bass lake somewhere where to start. But you know, Blue Mesa's big, but you start looking at these bass fisheries around the U.S. that are 90,000 acre, 120,000 acre bass lakes. And it's like, I want to go bass fish there, but I don't have the time to go break that place down. So
right.
I want to go and have fun on a big body of water. So I'm just going to hire somebody. And then the other part of that we're really started to see the last few years is people that just want to come and learn, even if it's not even just the fishery in particular, but just how to fish.
Mm-hmm.
How do you troll? How do you use a downrigger? How do you operate a fish finder?
How do you stack your downriggers?
Yeah, how do you stack downriggers? What are planer boards? How do you use them? Like, there's so many different things that.
See?
Yeah.
I told you.
So I was fortunate enough to work for a guide service out on Lake Michigan for a couple years in high school. And so I learned a ton from that captain on the big water. How do you big water fish? Obviously, Lake Michigan is huge. And so, you know, opportunities like that to where you can take what a captain does in a completely different fishery from what you're dealing with, but apply it to what you like to do or what you want to learn how to do.
Yeah.
And so, you know, with that, we could also really caution anybody that's looking into booking a guide for any kind of trip. There's a lot of, you know, if you just do a quick Google search, like, hey, fishing guide in wherever, you're going to come up with like 4 or 5 pages of guides, more than likely. And so it's worth your time to go through the list pretty deep and really go through all those guys, look at their, you know, their history, look at their reviews, look at their social media, kind of get an idea who's the right guy for you. You know, there's going to be certain places or certain guides that don't allow you to keep fish. And if you want to go to a fishery and catch and keep fish, some guides will do that and some guys won't. If you're going to go, you know, I've seen this on the bass side of things too. You want to book a guided trip with, there's a lot of elite series touring pros that are guides. And, you know, some of the fine print with that is you get on the boat with them and you basically fish out of the back of their boat and watch them fish all day. So if that's for some people, that's a really good way to learn.
Right.
Just really observant like that. But a lot of us want to be super hands-on at the same time. So, like say, I think it's worth spending quite a bit of time going through a lot of the different options out there for guides on an area or a species or a lake that you want to go target, and really filter them out and get the right one for you.
Yeah. And you mentioned this, that some of the trips, I just saw this, you guys had like a Black Friday thing for it. But some of the trips you guys do are like training specific trips, correct? And there's at least 2 or 3 different categories. What are those categories that you guys do?
Yeah, so we actually started this just last year, and where that came from is I do seminars like at the ISC show in Denver or Salt Lake, or we're going to be in Shields later this month doing some stuff. And so we get a lot of people that are like, those are great, but, you know, Blue Mesa is so far away that they either forget about it, it's the wrong time of year or whatever. So basically what we wanted to do was offer up basically seminars that are on the water. So that's kind of what we're trying to do. So the last few years with the big explosion in yellow perch fishing in our fishery, it's such a new, it's not super new, but it's been growing in popularity. And so that's where we started it. So it's like, it was like an on the water perch training class. Like, how do you even target these things? Like, they're so far removed from what we're used to doing here, trolling for salmon or fishing for lake trout or whatever. So we started it with that. And then we've had a lot of folks really we've over the years booked specific trips for folks that, like, say, just want to learn how to troll.
Mhm.
Whether it's on Blue Mesa or anywhere else, just getting familiar with the equipment. Yeah. So we're started offering that for this upcoming season as well, where you can book a seat on the boat and learn how to troll with all the different stuff. Like, it's super on, it's hands-on, it's one-on-one. It's like, if you want to deep dive in and learn it, like, I don't think there's a better way to learn how to do something like that besides get on the water with somebody that's got 20 years experience with it and have them coach you up and walk you through it. And by the time you walk off the boat, you're dialed, good to go.
Absolutely. And if people want to sign up for that, that's gsofishing.com, correct?
You are correct. Yep.
There it is. So, yeah, I looked at that, the trolling class. He's not wrong. Like, we did talk about that because I think it'd be fascinating to learn just a deep dive into that. So we've talked about that some. But we've already talked about it. We're coming out next year at some point, probably early May. If we can hit the May season, we're going to come out with you guys for one of those trips for sure. So
awesome. Yeah. Love to have
World
you.
record or bust.
All right. Pack your lunch.
So, hey, we've got a few people tuned in watching live, which is awesome. If you guys are out there, make sure if you have any questions as we're going through, make sure you comment. Also help us out, like the video now. That helps more people see this as we go. Make sure you subscribe not only to our channel, but go over to GSO Fishing's channel and subscribe over there as well. They're doing kind of a podcast, I guess is what I would probably call it. That is, I mean, I geek out on it because it's way over my head, but it's super fun information. But one of the topics you guys have touched on quite a bit is jigging. And if anybody has watched, which there's not a lot of people, but there's a few people that have watched our videos, they know that we are not good at jigging, and we openly admit it. I bet it's been 3 years. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, 3. This man of many words here.
I don't know.
So I bet it's been about 3 years since we really started studying jigging and how to do it and looking into that. And I mean, if you start studying how to catch lake trout, the first thing you're going to see is get a white tube jig, put it on a hook, and drop it in, and like magic, you just catch fish.
Yeah, and they're going to be like this big, and
that's everything you see. And I have yet in 3 years to catch a lake trout, anything, actually, not just a lake trout, anything on a tube jig. So help us out, please. What are we doing wrong? Like, what are some jigging 101? I mean, you guys go like jigging graduate PhD course on your podcast, but jigging 101, help us out.
Patience.
Okay.
I'll have it.
So that issue could last a couple hours. That's crazy can of worms there, but that was the birthplace of our lure company, was creating a jig head that you could use with the tube jig that actually worked. That was half the problem. And so, yes, jigging has been part of our arsenal for decades, and it will continue to be forever.
Can I interject really fast?
Yeah,
onto that
absolutely.
Point?
Yeah.
So when they say like their jig head is designed for tube jigs, in our research, we have come across a handful of different YouTube channels and sites and research, and legitimately, I was buying parts and pieces of different weights and different hookups and different swivels to try to create and replicate what I was seeing from other people before I found the GSO jig heads. And so when you say you've created something that isn't really out there, like that is 100% true. And I was like, oh, this solves all of my problems in one place. Like I was Frankensteining the heck out of different things, trying to make something that would work. Now, granted, I have used your tube jig heads and still am not good enough at jigging to catch anything, but at least it makes it a lot simpler.
Well, that's the first thing about jigging is to keep it simple. And there's a lot of things that you can overthink when you're jig fishing too. I think scent is really one of them. We get bombarded with scent questions all the time and sucker meat and that whole thing. For us, it's a fall rate and it's a color. And if you get those two things right, assuming you're fishing in the right area, you put those three things together and you're golden. So to answer your question, how to start becoming a better jig fisherman,
I'm sorry.
I get like my brain just goes in 100 different places, but I really think my personal opinion there is I think equipment means more to your success. I think using the wrong equipment can hurt your success so much more than anything else.
Hey, we need to buy more stuff. He just said it. That's what he said.
Amazon.
Andy said it. It's true.
He lost me already.
Yeah. Depending on what your technique or your target fish is, the right rod and the right reel and the right line, like they mean the world of difference in your fishing abilities. Like you see these bass guys with 30 rods on their deck, and it's like every one of those rods has one job. And I'm not saying you have to buy a rod for every tube jig that you throw, but you should probably have 2 or 3 different tube jig rods. And I can just go bananas on why. But
okay, start there then. Yeah. If the first one for a tube jig, the first setup you should buy is
for like the universal, right? Like not a very, I wouldn't say you're targeting something extremely specific, but like, hey, I'm brand new on your boat. I want you to catch a fish. This is most likely to guarantee success.
Okay.
What does that setup look like?
I would recommend a 7-foot medium extra fast spinning rod with 20-pound braid and probably a 12-pound fluorocarbon leader.
Did you hear that? He said spinning rod.
He did.
Not that bait casting shit.
And the reason and I'm a huge bait caster fan.
No,
but
I'm not. I am not.
But it's not necessarily the right tool for that job, because you want a tube jig to fall vertical on a slack line, whether you're casting it and bringing it back in your boat or ice fishing or whatever you're doing. You want a spinning reel. When you open that bail, gives you a straight vertical free fall, which gives that lure the best action. And so with a bait caster, if you try to do that, then you literally have to sit there and pull line off your reel as the thing's falling. And it's just far less efficient. Now, for ice fishing, a lot of times for big trophy lake trout, we will use bait casters just because we can spool them up with a little bit heavier line and more of it. And I honestly trust the drag system better on a bait caster than I do a spinning reel. But
that's for ice fishing.
But that's in real specific uses. But generally speaking, spinning rod, and the reason I say extra fast and braided line and all that stuff is that is the most sensitive setup you can put in your hand. That's the most important thing. Like when we take guided trips for jigging for anything, trout or lake trout on the boat, the biggest struggle we see time after time is bite detection. And one thing that you'll quickly learn when you come fishing with me next spring is the bigger those lake trout get, the harder it is to tell they just bit you.
Yeah.
Like I guarantee you that 70-pound fish that guy caught probably felt like a fly landed on the end of his pole.
Wow.
And so it is unbelievable how light that bite can be. And so if you have anything going on with your setup that's not as sensitive as it can possibly be, you're simply just missing the bite.
You missed it.
Yeah. I was like, I'm thinking through my rod setups. I'm like medium heavy, like I'm like none of them are medium like fast. I'm like, all right, that's a good place to start.
So that's where I would start with the equipment. And then, from there, then it's like, it's a whole technique thing, but, just visualizing, we're using a tube jig 90% of the time as a bottom contact lure. And so, it's just visualizing that lure laying on the bottom of the water. What is it doing? What is it running into? What is it hanging up on? What's that environment down there look like? And that's probably the whole bite detection thing. The hardest thing to sort out is that a piece of grass? Did I just hit a rock? Was that a fish that just bit it? You got to kind of put that thing in your hand and fish with it all day so that you can finally feel the difference between all the different things going on down there, because you want that lure on the bottom all the time. That's kind of what that thing was designed to do. And so that kind of goes along with that bite detection issue, is sorting off what's a snag, what's a fish, what's a stick, all that stuff.
And so I'm going to add, Andy is a mad scientist when it comes to all this stuff. Like, he sits in his workshop, you guys, it gets crazy in a hurry. So if there's one thing he's taught me, it's understanding what your lure is designed to do. There are plenty of lures on the market that are designed to catch fishermen and not fish. So understanding.
You need to make a shirt that says that.
Yeah.
That's like one of the best quotes I've ever heard.
Totally.
So understanding, like, our company alone currently, like on the market, maybe not currently, we have a bunch in the works, but on the market, we have 8 different jigs that, like, what?
Yeah, 8 different heads just for tube jigs, plus the different weights for each head style. So
and they all do something different. So understanding what the jig you are using is designed to do, like even the line tie makes a massive difference in the way that the jig moves across the bottom, moves down through the water column. So really understanding what you've picked up. Probably the most common, maybe the easiest, would be a 90, I would say. It's pretty, horizontal in the water, pretty general. And then this guy's like, if you pull on it, when you drop it through the ice, you can swim it out away from you. I'm like,
right.
What?
Right.
What?
Yeah.
But for us regular folks,
if you want to know how much of a mad scientist he is, go listen to some of the podcasts talking about, because I remember we talked about it after I listened to the 60 versus 90 jig head podcast. I'm like, this is so, like, it's like, whew, like I'm just not there yet. Like, but it is great information. And if you want to take a deeper dive, well, I would say go listen to them, whether you want to take a deeper dive or not. You're gonna learn some stuff from those podcasts. And I would love, every part of me right now wants to just sit here and keep picking at this because I want to get better, but I also know we need to value your time, and we'll just have to bring you back on and do this again at some point.
We're talk fishing all night.
What was that?
We could talk fishing all night long. I get it. Yeah.
I know if YouTube's algorithm was great for 3-hour videos, I would probably just do it. But
right.
But I do want to touch on the last thing, just because we're moving into that season. Ice is starting to form on Blue Mesa right now. Again, we don't do anything well. That's what I feel like I'm getting ready to say. We ice fish probably once or twice a year. Is about all we're able to get out for a variety of reasons. My work schedule gets crazy and everything else, and I don't like the cold. But Blue Mesa is one of those places that we typically make it out to. So again, I mean, start at like kindergarten level here. And I think, so I'm going to, sidetrack here. I'm going to say this. One of the things I struggle with ice fishing is, how do you pick, like in a boat, I can find structure and know where I'm kind of trying to target fish at. Are you doing, as an ice fisherman, are you doing that off of past knowledge? Is there a way for someone coming onto the water as a newbie to look for some of those places that's a better spot to set up camp, I guess? Let's go there.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good question.
That's a great
question.
And you have 5 minutes to answer. Ready, go.
So that goes down, that's a lake study thing. Studying maps of the lake that you're going to go, and then basically understanding what the fish you're going to fish for are doing in the winter. So again, super easy, simple questions have so many ways that we can answer that one. But generally speaking, on a winter pattern for most all fish out there, they're going to usually set up on either a point or a hump or a flat, all of which are next to very deep water. And so if you want to put yourself basically on one of those three places, a point or a hump or a flat, next to deep water. So then, you're looking at a contour map. There's all kinds of apps on your phone, Navionics or CMap or whichever one you like. Paper maps, they're on your fish finders. So, understanding what the contour lines look like on those maps obviously is a really important part of that. And this is another seminar that we've actually done a lot of, and we're going to keep moving forward with, just educating anglers on map study, like how important that is to set yourself up to start where the fish already are. And so what goes along with that, though, is say, you find all these good looking spots on your map at your house, and you drive out to the lake and it's like Blue Mesa in the winter, and it just looks like white out Siberia in front of you. And so you're like, well, where, it looks obvious on my map, but where is that? Mm-hmm. So if you don't have, a fish finder with a map on it or an app on your phone that works at the lake that you're standing on, and so you literally just have to walk up to the lake and look at it and be like, where am I going to walk out to and start? I would probably find the rockiest, steepest place and start there. Like if you just need somewhere to start on some body of water that you don't know anything about, I would find somewhere that has a lot of slope to it and rocks on it. That's probably my number one place to start. And if you can find somewhere where the rocks turn into sand or something, like we call that a transition zone, or if you can see it on the shoreline where it's, steep and then it goes real flat, like any place that the underwater topography or structure changes is a really good place to start, because, maybe they're going to be on that real steep rocky stuff just chilling, but then they want to go feed on the flat that's right next to it is where they actually feed. And so you'll catch those fish moving from one piece of structure to the other. So it doubles up your chances of running into them. Mm-hmm. And then as far as depth goes, like I would probably never in the ice fish deeper than 40 foot ever, even for on this lake in the winter. Like we take all kinds of lake trout trips, and I never look past 40 foot.
Really?
I was like, that's something we've kind of learned again, we don't go often, but yeah, I think the first year we went, I think we started in 75 feet of water and we spent 8 hours staring at freezing worms, basically, is what we did.
Right.
You know? So,
I mean, especially a lot of the fish in Colorado are cold water fish. You know, there's trout everywhere. Trout are cold water fish. They feel right at home under the ice. They love it. And so they have no reason to go deep and find warm water like a bass or a crappie or something would in the winter. They're going to be right up shallow where they feel good. And so that pulls the big majority of the fish really 30 feet or less all winter long. So that's one other, I guess, point too that we see pretty often is it's pretty hard to fish too shallow in the winter. Like you can catch a lot of fish in like 5 feet of water all winter long.
wow.
Dang.
Yeah.
All right.
There you go. I love watching Stormy's face every time she knows you're getting ready to go down a rabbit hole, and she's just like, you know what, like trying to pull you back, like
how can I interject? What do I do? No, you guys should see my face when we're recording our podcast because we fished together. We've almost been married for 20 years and we fished together that entire time. And we'll be talking on the podcast and I'm like, what in the world? Like, holy cow, I learn something new every day. So It's a good thing you guys can't see my face on those.
Really what you're thinking is like, why haven't you told me that in the last 20 years? Like I could be much better right now.
Yeah.
You are holding out for sure.
It's like, well, I was thinking it.
There you go. You got anything left? Yes, we have lots
I
of
could
questions.
go down the rabbit hole too. Just with questions. Like, how do you test what your jig is supposed to be jigging in the water? How do you send it this direction? How do you do? Yeah, I got a lot of questions.
We're just gonna have to do this again, I guess.
Yep.
We'd love it.
Yeah,
So.
anytime. Yeah, and test your stuff out in the bathtub. Like, don't be too proud. Like, go down to the swimming pool and throw it around. Like, sometimes they'll look at you funny, but like, if you really want to like see what your stuff's doing underwater, and you're not in a lake where it's clear enough to see it on your own, go to the swimming pool. Yeah. Like using, like there's ways you can do it.
They might kick you out, but
they
it's
might,
fine.
but you'll get your testing in first, so it's all good.
Yeah. I was like, your parents have a hot tub, don't they? I was like, we're gonna go break into someone with a hot tub and test this out.
Perfect. Oh, perfect.
Love it.
This is what we'll do. You get goggles and put your face in the water, and I'll throw it out there, and you tell me what's going on.
John. Awesome. Anything else you guys want to add as we kind of close out here? Anyone you want to tell people watching now or in the future? We actually do have a few people tuned in and watching, so thank you guys that are watching live. That is a huge help for sure.
Yeah. Thanks for
anything you want to tell people?
Well, first off, thank you guys for having us on and for inviting us. That was very, very wonderful. We have never done a YouTube live, guys, so thank you for that.
Yeah, hopefully this is the first of many to come. Yeah, we're always down to sit and talk fishing, and so long as it doesn't get too wild, which it can with me, but as long as Stormy's here, she'll keep it under wraps and we'll try to keep moving forward with stuff. But really, like what I was going to say too about if you really want to learn how to jig fish, there's no better time to do it than through the ice, because you are forced to learn how to jig fish. There's no other way you can do it besides dead sticking some bait. That's like kind of the only other real viable technique through the ice. So if there's ever, one thing I tell anglers all the time, if there's a technique that you really want to learn, like, you have to go to the lake with that rod in your hand all day and leave everything else at home. And you will learn how to do it that day. So just stick with it.
It's so hard to do. It's great advice. I feel like a teenager. Yeah, you're right. I'm not going to listen to you. But
Heard that before.
That's
awesome.
me. I'm stubborn.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Yep. Thank you guys so much. If you're watching, again, go subscribe to GSO Fishing on YouTube. If you want to book a guided trip with them, go check out GSOfishing.com. That is also where you can order some of these incredible jig heads that we are talking about, that apparently work for some people. We're going to go spend a day on the water and figure this out. So, but they legitimately are some of the best quality jig heads that I've seen from a variety of places, and I've tried a ton of this stuff because I blame it all on the equipment. It's never me.
It's not you.
Yeah.
You're doing everything right.
Yeah.
It's just the crap.
That's right.
Yeah.
So go check them out. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to it, to the channel. We're on a push to get to 500 subscribers by the end of the year, which we had a major milestone today.
We did?
Yeah. Do you remember? I sent it to you.
You didn't.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. No,
I don't remember.
we got our first troll comment.
Oh, yeah. We did troll.
Yeah. So
That was the wrong way to do it.
So we're excited. We feel like we've kind of made it in the YouTube world because we're getting troll comments. So
Yes.
Oh yeah, good work.
Oh.
Heck yeah.
that's right. So all right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in to
Thank
Lake
you.
Trout Live. Andy and Stormy, thank you guys so much for being here. Until next time, tight lines,
Cool cans.
and we'll see you guys later.
Thank you.
This is the awkward part of the video where